They wanted to go ahead in the Gemara because it's a difficult sugya. I don't want to be stuck in the same. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to be sitting in the Gemara Grufa Ketuma for 2 months. It wasn't like it's not like the Sugya Chanukah. We did 10 lines and Gaiter and 10 lines. It's all connected, and you got to get through the Gemara. Very, very difficult sugya. Very, very difficult sugya. Mem is difficult sugya because it's like the back and forth. But we have a quiz to learn Sunday night. The Rebbe Sichas. It's Machab Shor. We're going to start. We're going to learn the first Tosfos in Kira. Self the Eibishter. Yeah, I found Reishimo from the Rebbe on the first Tosfos in Kira. Has to do with today's Chitas. So has to do with today's Chitas. And so that will be the Pasha. Let's do the Pasha. And the interesting thing is that this is the Shimas that the Rebbe never said. It's funny, why did the Rebbe not end up saying? Last night, the whole story I told once a Maisa, and a picture of this guy, the Rebbe was by his chasna, and when he was a chosin, the Rebbe came. No, don't think the Rebbe was not by his chasna. I don't think he born before him. Yeah. So the Rebbe was there, and the Rebbe was supposed to speak by the Kabbalah's Porner, and he asked that the Rebbe shouldn't speak. And that was a Reishimo, which the Rebbe never said afterwards. And the Yodei Dover, no. Anyway, this is not that Reishimo because it's for Bar Mitzvah. Somebody had a $100.
What does it mean, Reishimo? I know what it means in Hebrew, but what?
The Rebbe had a lot of notebooks that he kept on his desk that no one ever knew about, and it was never published. Had to Gimel Tammuz, and they looked at his desk, they saw. It seems that the Rebbe really prepared it there that it should be published.
So they published it.
No, not yet. But before Chav Zayin Adar, for a week or two, the Rebbe cleaned up shop. The Rebbe cleaned shredded papers. He organized everything. Everything that Rebbe organized.
But not this.
This he left right in the drawers. So it was understood, and the decision was made by a good Chassidei Chabad to publish everything. Some people had tinus, but the tinus ahin, tinus ahead was very what would you like? They should not publish it. You remember that we did the Shimas HaMenorah? That was also from the Rebbe's desk. I really want to cover a little bit of Gemara, but let's first start with the Shimas because it's Gishmak, and whoever comes late will get to learn a difficult place for us. But everyone that came on time should enjoy Gishmak and Shimas. Sure. Thanks. You wanted a Shimas? Huh?
Oh, Chagad Bar Mitzvah, not
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I realized this couldn't be that Nishima. Okay. Huh? You're learning with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Beginning.
Let's skip the beginning. The beginning that Rebbe talks about different of a why by Yid, by mitzvah starts at the age of 13, and by a Godel is the age of 20, 21. Because the point is, the Rebbe says, by Goyim, first they were nomads, then they found a land, then they made a king, then they made laws. So it goes
Everything.
and Api Seichel. Mashenka Vayidin, it's Fakert. Yidin went out, Eretz Lo Zerua, and they didn't have a land, they didn't have a king, they didn't have nothing yet. They right away, they said, Nasav and Ishma, Kefa, it's the union of Kabbalah Sel Malchut Shemayim. So when a person is 13 years old, he's old enough to understand El Malchut Shemayim. That's why by mitzvah by a Yid is different than a Goy. And then the Rebbe goes, let's start at Ois Gimel, page 7. I gave you the entire Reishimo, just in case you want to read it and you want to take it home, so you have a Dova Shalom. Oy this Asa Matzina b'Midrash Chazal shoyel eich ma'asen and satevet. What was this question?
Where the whole sikha about it.
It's a different than that sich. Different. Vinyan bazeh. Teven tofel agari. Yuhu Michael lebehem. Shurim as anafish amazik bakiv. The grain inside is Michael Adam. The shiboilus is Michael behem. Michael Adam is Merabas nefesh kis. Michael behem and nefesh ma'as.
Who put the milk in the bar? That's
It's a lot of hard work. Yeah.
The people who mefaner the Reishimos.
Yeah.
Nothing from the Rebbe.
No.
No, because I say, look,
So-
if I say the Rebbe would not write it.
Right. This is all, this is all from the team. Okay. Aaf shechel goyim god mitzvah lachil v'shtir v'ikriyanan plein ze latofel letleve shbetoichet tzarich li is toichen agara ana shnina magash mehel letir shvil lochnes agdusha shazo menig yakin shekin esef shachofetz sheyashiru yasu yamshichu begdusha betevel. Esef wants Yaakov to him. The main thing is the gare, the Michael order, the nefesh alakis. But Yaakov, that's the ikar. Esef the ikar is he wants to have a shidus, and that's why he wants a case that ma'astrin as a teven. Aser b'shvil shetis asher. He wants to bring kedusha in to the teven, so he should have a lot of money. Kimish etzl zehu ikar. Keiner besoif shemeiv is beinav sapchoyde bezan cholen alaki shenikar v'achver liyos ikar v'meila balaver al mitzvah al hei averis sheichas domim by bayom, as the Gemara says in Bava Bas. Shenkin yad k'vachi tosik shenyon megashim beinim elab dugmas teven tovar atofel aruchnas kedusha zochel la'yud v'hoya beis Yaakov la'eish u'beis Esav la'kash beis Yaakov la'eish nas achadim atoyra Shala nemer alikoid vorakeish sheyisrev as beis Esav shehu kash moitev. Okay, let's skip over the bracha to the bar mitzvah boy and let's go to the next page 8. Before we go weiter, let's learn the first Tosfos here, and then you'll understand the beauty of the Rebbe's words. First Tosfos in Kir.
Lamed Vav Beis.
Lamed Vav Beis, Yishkar. First Tosfos. Kiri shachur be'kashig vava nira leri. The kash hainus v'novus hashabolim shenikra besada. Shenisha besada nikra ashtublo belaz. Teven o niktzir ima sheboilus. The hochi mashmal kamon be'pere kashoel. The Rama bishle mekash mishkachas lo b'machuba. Ela teven hechem mishkachas lo, it should be machuba, but it gets cut off. The Masik and the Gemara answers, Betiv Nasari. Verstunken a teven that no one wants to cut. So it's a mashma from the Gemara. And that the farmer takes, he cuts off the teven, or the first Tosfos. He cuts off the teven, and he gives it to the behemoth to eat. Now, he could decide, sometimes Rashi says on Chumash, that you cut the tuah when it's early. You give it to your behemoth to eat, and then it grows a second time. But for sure, the second time, they separate, they take the chita out, they make flour and bread out of it, and then the teven, what's left over, they give to the behemoth. The lower part of the stalk is very hard and heavy, and the behemoth will is nashtes. So they leave it in the field. Now, sometimes, likuti basa likuti, the farmer will cut it the second time, and what can you do with kash? You throw it into the bricks. You could throw it into the fireplace as matches.
We don't need it more now. Masik it from over there.
Punkt is Oder Omer Bereisha Mekabel Makom Shanogo liegt in der Ashalake. Schon der Omer Alecha Li. The Titaven Aroi. The person says, I want that my land should become full of teven. Havele Lamema the Tiskash Aroi. Ranishel Bekarka Alachoida Nikre Kash. The Pedish Rashi. Elam Shum the Titaben Mashmat Fei Loshen Zibo. Nokatli. The word titaben, even though it usually means teven, but the word titaben also can mean zevel. And the person says, Neicheli, the titba naroi, I want that my line should be full of zevel.
Right.
But that's Shema Mushul. But the Be'em Shema Etzem, the Tevin, is the higher part of the stalk. The lower part of the stalk is Kash. The higher part, you separate the Michael Odom from the Michael Behema, and the lower part, you could nothing to do with it. You could throw it into the bricks or you could throw it into the oven as firewood.
So you have a Machal Oda, Machal Beime, and then Buri. Three levels.
Okay, very good. Now let's learn the Reishimo and look with parrots. Look in with parrots. And look in the Reishimo, page 9. Ois hey. Ois hey. יש לבר גם דיוק הלושן באומר ליל שעשב שור על מייסה בטבע. Why did he ask Dafka about Tev, not about Kash?
Right.
Now we know the difference of Iskate Kash v'Tev. The expression.
Two separate things.
Vila Bayu de Leotzet Lovin Emmer, base Esov Lekash. Kash Daik, V'loi Tev. Hegde Machilog Bei, Tev and Lekash. Pima Shekosa B'Toisves, Rish Po'ire Kire V'Hamekabel. The Teven, Hu Aniktzirim Ashiboilis. Hu Anitten La Bahima. Ashenkin Kash, Nishan Mochuber Lekarke. וגם מייכל בהמה אין לו שייכות לשבוילס כלל. Tosfos says that the two parts, the upper part, you could separate the chita from the shiboilus. That's for Michael Adam and that's for Michael Laim. The lower part is garbage, so you can use it firewood. You can use it for lakoishish kash lateven. ויש לבר זה על דרך מה שקוסם קונטרס המים, שבתחילה נמשך לאחויתן ומה שמשך לסתרחה, חלק בראש. אבל זה רק כל זמן שיש בו עדיין האור מצד הקדושה. שזה בדוגמס תבן, שנקצעים ויש לשייכס לשיבוילס, which is Michael Odom, and also this part is Nitenes L'Behema. Mashenk and Kash in לשייכס לשיבוילס כלל. Moire al מים בדמאטס שסויף סוי, נפסקס השפוע מהסתרחה. כמו שקוסר in the next pasuk, לא יהיה והשם סלויך לגמרי. And the Kuntas Amayim, a big part of the Kuntas Amayim is Rebbe Rashab wrote, really, it's a Musa Sefer. He wrote Kuntas Amayim for a group that he started with Leule Rabbonim called Chevres Machziki Hadas. That he does not have Machziki Hadas show. Chevre Machziki Hadas. That it's talking about the story I told last night with the, Chofetz Chaim, 70 years. The Yidden was willen sein froh. And he wrote a kunteris to be machazed, they should learn between Mincha and Meiden. Yidden was willen sein froh. Now today, in a lot of Lubavitcher yeshivas, they teach kunteris and Meiden to boys that are 14 years old. Why? Was kann man lernen mit den Kindern? Tiefe Sachen in Tanya. Okay, you can teach them Tanya, but it's a clean kind. Now my girl's taka, he's a 13 or 14-year-old. And they're both learning different parts in the school, kunteris and Meiden. It's taka. It's easy. It's musari, and it's good. And one of the big things in Kuntas Amayim is that the klipa love by Frat Yid when he sins, because he has a lot of chayis, he has a lot of juice. He's bringing them a lot of chayis, so they give him chelik barush. That's why he's very rich and he's very wealthy and he has a lot of But then, as soon as he starts supplying the goods, because he has nothing to give them anymore. From Kedushin. They spit him out with a vengeance. That's Lamant's voice. Person shouldn't say Belvavcha that Lamant's voice there's a Yid that Chashon thinks that he could connect the Rova and Atzmeya. The Rova is the Palei Aveda. It's Klip. Atzmeya is Kedusha, is always yearning to come close to Hashem. And he thinks, Laman's Fois HaRova, it's Atzmeya. At Geben, the Rova, a little bit of Chayis from the Atzmeya, from Kedusha. Lo Yev Hashem Tzloich Lo. At the end, it doesn't work out. Because in the beginning, and another thing he says there, because Ayid, at the end, Ayid can never be ultimately connected to Klip. So eventually, then he never suffers.
Oh, no, Shabbos is connected.
Yeah, verstehe, but that's different. That's shade in Yudoin. That's the shade in Nachroim. Scholz klips at meis. Not Shabbos is not shade Scholz klips at meis. He thinks that can bring a chais. Scholz klips at meis. And for a little bit, it looks like he's getting extra hashpah, because we see Take that there's Bale Aveda that are to show him, and they have extra COVID and extra things. At the end, it's only because the clip is giving them a chelik berush. So he's saying that's the difference. The tevin, there's a chashivas to the farmer likes the tevin because the tevin hotachap is in that because there is a maichlodam in it. And Mela, he's already going to cut it off. So what is he going to do with the rest? He's not going to throw in the garbage. You give it to the behemoths to eat. Bleib tepes that the tevin hotachashivas, but the bottom, gosh, garbage, throw it in the fireplace, firewood, it's a garnish. So he's saying Esau, when he's next to Yitzchak, so he says Kates and Masin is Atevin. But later, when he didn't have the upper hand against Esau, when the Vahoya Beis Yaakov Eish HaToyre Dvorek Eish Beis Yosef Lahova with the Lahova of Toyre, Yemelt garnished the Vet Kash, and he gets burnt. He was moving Gaman Agela Esau. Sheshol Advar Meiser Shenyonam Shabbos HaKedusha. Meiser is the Inyan Abimam Shakidusha in Yonachosa. And shows the Shaykh is a Kedusha. Shol Advar Meiser Betev. Du must Tev Sheshaykh L'Shibaylos. But again, the bit quick says plus a lot of them are based Asa Lakash. Taina Shakash and Lashatz Shabaylos Kedusha Klam. Who Oisya Sak. Kash is the Oisya Sak. Sak Osam Ksusam. Vush Sak Shechatzanim Yankim Imenu. His battle Gamre lost at Lovin Bashenkin at him. Shemar Achel Kashach Kedusha is Arya Kabokar. Yechel Tev and Gam lost at Lovin.
That sounds like the Rebbe father.
Yeah. Doesn't it sound like the Rebbe's father?
Yeah.
The Rebbe wrote it. He was not going to Rebbe. Think about it. This is written.
But the way you write, like Machshav from his father, like, what do you write?
You, the Tofshin Beis, they write. 1942. So, after your Fagim Rebbe, he's talking. It's his father's style. It's father's
how
style.
he's thinking that.
Yeah.
And even the way he should the notes, what's first, what's second.
Yeah. Yesh lois olavar. Is this sheis shol Abba? Why did he say Abba? Shol is Yitzchak dafka. Behek de mabir echo Isa chosh benef shol Yitzchak kol kach shoyin merameh b'shayla sech masum satev. Ki Yitzchak ro Isa melamala derech make. He saw him. The Chassidus says like in his neshama. He saw melamayla.
He's what is it called? He's short of neshama, very very high. That's why he fell so down.
Before something, before fruit is that the clipper comes before the fruit. Pesha says it's that Yitzchak sees him that way. Zogamatam Shais and Ikim Shalosech Mas and Sanelach, Jamelach, in the Buddha. And Buddha is in the Yitzchak is over Buddha Shosha Shalesa. Kiddush, Deisha, Deisa, beat with Yitzchak. The Chitas, this week, that Yaakov gets brought to the Mars of Machpel and Esav macht trouble. And exactly, Chushim Ben Dan sends him where he belongs.
He didn't hear good.
Yeah. So Reisha Deisa between Yitzchak. Okay, let's see about this. I found Bashgocha Protis, this Rishimis last week, and we're learning Kida. And the Rebbe has a Shena Chap on this Tosfos. What's the difference between Kash and Tevin? A lot of times, Chazal, Iske Kash v'Tevin. But there's a difference between Kash and Tevin. Tevin, Zok Tosfos, is the higher chelik of the Sheboilas, and Kash is the lower part of the Sheboilas. And here's the Rebbe Diuk. At Tchila, when Esav is still connected to his father in Adrei Takah, and he's trying to get some energy from Kedusha, it's Kesed Ma'asrin, and it's Atevin. But once he gets spit out, Mashiach, and Sablaipti, he doesn't have any more Shachar Kedusha, his Vahoya, Beis Yaakov Eish, then Beis Esav is Kash. There's nothing left. He's like the lower part of the Sheboilas. And all you can do with him is firewood. Just like we hear in the Mishnah, that we Kiddush is Sikua. Bekash and the Gvova. So anything you can do with them, just throw them into the fire and let verbrennt. Okay, very good.
It's lovely. Famous halach and Shabbos. The Rebbe quote it so many times.
Oh, the going come for Iske Kash V'Tev.
Shabbos and Iske Kash.
So now you know what's the nafkamina between a shtickle kash and a shtickle tev.
On Shabbos.
Amen. The kash is firewood and tevin is Michael Behema.
Then we come to you for so long thing.
Yeah, even though they come for klinikite. Kash with tevin, maza kash with tevin. The Arabs are saying that they don't claim a zachin. And we have to know that a pidin. Okay. Very good. Right. Okay. So very good. So we learned the Rebbe's Reishimo. So Sai we learned tonight. We learned tonight is something that a little bit minyan of the Yoima from the Parsha, and Sai from the Torah from the Rebbe. Sai has to do with the Masechta the way we're doing. Okay. So we Daf Lamed Zayim go to the first of the fat lines. Yiboyu Lahu. The bottom of the page. Yiboyu Lahu. Mao Lismach Bo. Are you allowed to be soymach? Tosfos says, not sure probably in Greek, Bein a grufe kaboi, if there's not a grufe, the imas nisalash is tanan.
Lismach is meaning to put it next to
the fire.
Not inside.
Not inside. Imas nisalash is tanan, kaboi lahashas or lahagze. If you hold like that abonon, when you need a blech, say lahashas, lay lahagze. So if I didn't have a blech, could I at least put the pot in the side of the oven? Lahagze tam, like Hananya. So then you have to say that the shaila was if I want to do chazara, but there's no left, so at least I should be able to be simach. Or if I want to be lahashas, okay. Back in the Gemara. The Beishiv asked the shaila, I'm allowed to be simach. Will you say is also to put it near the oven? The person is going to have to be the no, because the pot is touching the wall in the oven. The wall in the oven is very hot, and he's going to get anxious. He wants it to cook quicker. He'll take a shovel and be machat to be the chol. Mao, was it? Mao, zog the Gemara. Toshma, shnekir, it's two ovens that were next to each other. One has a blech, and the one does not have a blech. So what do we do? You're allowed to leave a pot on the gruf of tumah. Even though you're leaving a pot here, and the heat is coming also from the other one. So the man that's the shkanaya. The shiny wholesome over there, it's different. Even the medallia, because it's totally in a different oven, and the oven does have a blech sholet be'avira. There's a little bit of an avir that blows between the two tanurim, and even though they're very close, epesavin kumtarain, and therefore the heat is not so strong. We're not choshishem yechata becholim here from the heat that's going here. Shenkin, if there's nothing here, and he's going to put a pot right here, and the heat is very strong coming from the wall without any wind in between. We skid it chages and Shabbos. I'll take a shovel and yechata begocholim in order to be memayir the bishu. So therefore, from this brayso of nishkenai. Okay.
Scientifically, air is not a good conductor of heat.
Yeah. Right. The problem is metal is a very good conductor of heat,
right.
And we use as a blech we use metal. And this is going to be something we're going to talk about.
Not what? It's not a thing to use.
Here, the Gemara says Guru Faktuma. He puts a thing full of sand. He puts an inch full of sand.
The oven was different than here. We managed in the fire.
There's a lot of things different. So we'll discuss it when we get there. Zog the Gemara Toshma. We love Reb Safra Reb Chia. Reb Chia said like this: Hotma v'nislams. He put sand, he put a blech, and then it became white. Sand became white from heat. Still, Rebbe basically saying, even though nislapsa, even though the sand became white from heat, we consider that the blech is still here. And you could be soymech and mekayim, but not lamach kaponim zog the gemara. Shema mino lismach nami. If you want to be soymech, it depends. Kot me'in like maloi. If you have a ketuma, you have a blech, it's good. And if you don't have a blech, it's bad. You can't put it there.
It's just a reminder, essentially.
Yeah. Well, this is all this talk. I love this. What's talking the blech? Is the blech a reminder, or is the blech?
Sand from the sea. Sand is very good for that.
Not as good as metal. Come on, metal is like. It's like the
And
amount
a metal you could cook, and the sand you cannot cook.
right.
There's only warm.
But
Yeah, that's why you see taka the chazal.
but it holds the heat.
Shaila is
The sand. I saw they make coffee on the sand.
Coffee, right?
You know what I'm talking about?
At least, yeah, I've seen that.
yeah.
The sand that was it holds the heat, and they just heat up the coffee on the sand. They put it on the sand, and it bubbles up.
See, sand is it's also it can't be can't bury something in sand because it's most valuable.
Right. So then it's a medaf. We have to get to it. What's the pshat? Well, Chazal said you put a blech with tuma. Is it that now you can't be machata? Or is it that's going to remind you that it's Shabbos and you shouldn't be machata? Like, well, how did the ketuma help? Okay, so we have to discuss it.
Basically, the reason you put the ketuma is to lower the heat.
Yeah, but the shaila is, so now that I lowered it, what's going to help?
That's it.
For some reason,
I'm not going to touch it today.
for some reason, is it because this is going to remind me it's a Shabbos? Oh, I see everything looks different. It's Shabbos. I remember I shouldn't take a shovel. Or is it that once I put all the sand, start turning it, it's all gonna get ruined? Or is it gonna remind you Shabbos? So the big nafkamina lagabe today is a big machloikis. There's a big machloikis. There are those that hold today. It's the whole chazal. They're scared that you're gonna make the fire bigger or smaller. But today we don't have a shovel to make the fire. We have dials that make it bigger and smaller. So the ikir inyan of the blech should also cover the dials. The others that say cup. That's not what Chacham said. That's not what I see in my mission. You have to cover the fire. The dials, cup. Dials are in, dials are ahead. Right? That's where you could buy today in the store two types of blech. One is a flat, and one has also right.
Or now with the new oven, it's all electronic. There's no dice at all. It's all punching.
Right. And a lot of times the electronic ones also, it's higher up. So it's not shaykh where you're going to put. And if you're going to cover it, you're going to ruin your whole oven.
Right.
It's going to melt.
You can't cover it.
Can't cover it. Okay, but there are those that makbid, that they try to figure the part silver for that happens. I heck it.
Right.
And there are those that say Baba Mises. That's what Chazal said. Chazal. So it depends. The emphasis, if you say that the blechi reminds me it's Shabbos today, so as long as the fire is covered, I remember some. Oh, why is there blech? Shabbos, Shabbos. To remember Shabbos. If you say that the blech makes that I can't physically be machata b'gecholim, so maybe taka there's room to be machmer. I can't be machata. I could. All I got to do is turn the dials. So I should cover the dials. And then taka, I can't. I mean, I put my finger underneath. Okay.
It's remind you already.
Okay. Sure. Exactly. So the shaila is how you look at it. Is it if it's just a reminder? A blech doesn't have to cover the dials. And if it makes it should be harder to the chitli, it has to cover the dials. You'll soon see it seems a little bit of machlokes Rashi and Tosfos on the next member in the Gemara. Back in the Gemara, Toshma, Amar B'Safra, Amar B'Chia. Chotma when he slaps it. He put sand, but it became white. Sam Chilam, Kaim Mala, Loitlim Imana, Machzir and Lo, can do everything. Because it's considered a blech. Shmamina, Nismach Nami, if you want to be Saimach. Also for Saimach, Kotmi, like Malak, if you have the sand, it's permissible to be Saimach, otherwise it's not permissible to be Saimach. So you want to understand. All the time, according to you, you're being medayik from the Braisa. So there's a Noitlim Imana Diktani. It says you're allowed to take off a pot. So you're going to say, caught me in, like, caught my it depends if it has a blech or not. It's not shaykh. Even if the opinion that says you need to have a blech, if you forgot, you take the pot off, Shayla, if you could eat it or not, you could take it off. Elo, tona noitlin mishum machzirim. It's fasiete. It's fasiete. He just said noitlin because of machzirim. Hochanami could say tona samchim mishum mekayim. It's a sfasiete. The main thing he meant, mekayim. It's like the Marhechi, how could you say this? Wholesome noitlin machzirim mechad mokem. The noitlin and machzirim is in the same place. Tona noitlin mishum machzirim. Havel hocha samchim mechad mokem. Which is on top of the oven. Mekaim and the side of the oven, sorry. Oh, Mekaim and Bechad Malkamu, on top of the oven. So why would you learn one because of the other? Meila, Loikel Machzirin is the same pot in the same place. So there's Neutland and there's Machzirin. So it's a Svasi Eter, even though Neutland, it doesn't matter. You know, but like, Tona Neutland Mishum Machzirin. But Samchin is here, and Mekaim is here. Why would you say a Loshen? But still, the Gemara is not convinced. The Gemara says, "My Havela." The Gemara is still Toshma. Kiddush is a kubik efes veit. Samchin lo, you're allowed to do smicha. Name a kaimet. Elim kain, yurufik tumah. You can't be mekayim unless you yurufik tumah. But even if you don't have yurufik tumah, you can do smicha. And here already answered the kasha. So you see clearly in this brayso that there's no blech. You can still do samchin. So you have to say in the previous brayso, even though tzadoich tona noitla mishum machzirin and tona samchim mishum mekayim. Continue the brayso. Cholam shamamo shenos nala nerish al yisrael. The cholam that got very weak. So the cholam itself produced a layer of sand on top of itself, or you put a thin layer of pishton. You don't have to have a blech made dafka from sand. Blech can be made from nerish and pishton dafka too. Kaponim.
It's fine.
I'm not sure.
It's a very short time.
I guess not.
Sand is not fine. Road things, dirt's not fine. Christians fine.
You would think so. I hear. That's a good question. Obviously not. Okay, so the Gemara, after 3 Toshmas, the 3 tries, the Gemara got to a resolution that you could be making lagabe saimchen, even though it's not grufak tumah, it's mutter to be saimchen. Okay, so the Gemara weiter. So before we had a member from Chia, and then now we have a member from Rebbe. Remember, Rebbe and Rebbe are good friends. They both made with Rebbe HaKodesh. One wrote the Braisa and one wrote the Tosefta. Chotma v'hubara. Similar to Rebbe Chia, Chotma v'hubara. He put sand, but then it became red hot. You could put water that's fully cooked. You could put a tafshel that's fully cooked. So, what's going on over here? I mean, obviously this is not Hananya speaking. But Hananya holds as long as it's cooked to Michael ben Drasoi, you don't even need a blech. So never mind if he thinks that this is yet considered a blech, not considered a blech. What do you care? Obviously, this is not Hananya speaking. Before we go weiter, we're going to see in the next daf in the Gemara, within the Shittas Rabbanon that you need to have a blech. Is it one shit is as long as it's cooked called sarkan, even if it's once it's cooked called sarkan, even if there's no blech, it's good. Even though it's mitzamek v'yafaloi. Second opinion says no, that if it's mitzamek v'yafaloi, you're not allowed to. You need a blech. Mitzamek v'raloi, then you don't need a blech. The third opinion says no, even with mitzamek v'raloi, Harabon hold you always need a black. But the Gemara, you'll see there's three opinions in this. Okay. Anyway, Shema Mina. Zog the Gemara, Chabaraya from the and mit stomach we follow mutter. Rashi mit stomach mismat the kovitz lotion shadaim tzemke. Kamo ishatoim belotion tzive mit stave. Maloshan said it's stadak, manoimer man it's stadak, which is a word in last week's parsha. Ken called Eva Sheroshi, you say that tzadi, Keshehim Spaelis, Noisen Tes Achera Tzadi. Mitzadok means that the tzedek is emotion. Manoimaman Mitzadok. You notice that tzadi got a promotion and given a tzaddik. Amol is a given a tzadi, nine is a given a tzaddik.
Oh.
Nechten tzadi is schon ein geworden a tzaddik. Right, in the Shabbos, right?
Even in the beginning of the even in the beginning of the Haftamadi.
Mutila shoysem, kira, the Elohim, mitzamik. Okay, so here's the Nash. How do we know from here that mitzamik, the offal is mutter? So the Rashi says, Mutila shoysem, kira, the Elohim mitzamik, the offal. If it wasn't mitzamik, it was mitzamik, but Aloi. Also, Lashmina, what are you coming to tell us? It's obvious if it's mitzamik, but Aloi. Obviously, I don't need a blech. I was going to say it's not so simple. There's a shit that says even stomach veralo, you need to have a blech. Rashi says, and the loy b'mitzlamik v'yafel. If it wasn't v'yafel, it was alloy. Master Shem, what's the chiddush? I don't need a blech. Elal korchich mitzlamik v'yafel. It has to be that it's mitzlamik v'yafel. Ka'oman. And that's what the Rebbe was saying. V'afilo hoch loy gozer mishum chitu. Chazal will not go that you'll be machat. This is not considered a blech because it's red hot. Hoyel in his bashal kol tzorken. So we see from here that mitzlamek v'yafel is muter. V'tona chamin la'ashmuina the be'ina shehucha mukor tzorken me'bayjan. So Rashi is saying that the Rebbe said chamin and tafshel. Why did he have to say two? It wasn't repetitive. Rashi is being very careful. Rashi knows that Tosfos, a list of shaylas along the Tosfos. And Rashi is going to say Zag Shmak Pshat. It's going to go so good in the words in the Gemara. And then when you learn Tosfos, it's very complicated.
In the Mishnah, Chamin is what? Water and Tafshil.
Water and Tafshil is something. Tafshil could be Chamin is water. That water, by definition, once it boils, it's a alahan because you're losing water. You're not gaining. Your cup of tea or coffee is never going to get better once it boiled. That it boiled for another 5 hours. You have a samavar all Shabbos because you have no choice. Okay, and then but exactly you lose water and then it gets finished. But Mashenkin Tafshil, there's a chont and the Mersiko. So better it is. Okay. So Rashi saying that Rebbe said two things. He said that if it became red hot, the blechers can blechnish. But so therefore he tell you chumra nakula.
What's red hot?
He put kotma in his lapsa.
And it's still red hot.
And now it became red hot. The sand became red hot. So it's as if you never put a blech. This is way Rashi is learning. As if you never put a blech. And now I'll tell you chumra nakula. Chumra that the water has to be fully cooked. Once it's fully cooked, then you don't need a blech. There's no blech. Once it's fully cooked.
Because it's mazik to it.
Either I'm going to tell you akula that the child, even though it's mitzvah the more that the child is cooking, the better it gets. But once it's already fully cooked, we're not choshesh lechitui. Shema mina the mitzvah v'yafaloi muter. So from this memory, I know the mitzvah v'yafaloi you don't need a blech. It's muter. That's basically the most kulidik shita within Rabbanon. That as long as it's fully cooked, you don't need a balach anymore. Even if it's mitzvahik v'yafalik. Holshkin, it's mitzvahik v'rali.
It's better than Michael ben Nesoy, but
it has to be fully cooked. Chavanya says as long as Michael ben Nesoy, You don't need a blech. And the Rabbanon says it's to be fully cooked. Okay, that's the most kuladik within Rabbanon. Okay. So the Gemara, Shani Hacha the Kotma. Nah, this is different. Over here, it's a yoitzim in a cloud. Rashi says the Kotma. V'goli daite de lo nechela b'tzimuki. He was Megala Das that he doesn't want this thing should, if he really wanted that this thing should become a geschmack tifet, why did he put a layer of sand? So therefore, even though it became red hot again, we treat it as if it's a blech. The trick, the gewalt of Rashi is, first of all, in Lomdus, that Rashi holds that there's such a thing of gola daite. As long as there's megala das, that I don't want to make chitui, I'm not going to make chitui. That's in Lomdus. But in Inyan, there's very complicated Tosfos. Rashi figured out how we could say, you have your cake and eat it too. That it's, the Gemara wants to say, the shlug up, that, don't bring it out. This is different. It's a halfway kotma and halfway not kotma. Why is it halfway kotma, halfway not kotma? Because he put sand, it was megala das that he doesn't want atifa chol. So therefore, but if it was not fully cooked, and fourth, it's not considered a blech anymore. It's not a blech. So it is not a rai for the general din of what's shittas Rebbe Oshia, the Terch shittas Rabbanon. This is a yoitzam and a klam. That's the upshlag from the Gemara. Shani hacha the kotma, because it was kotma. So even though it's as if it's not a blech, but a little bit I treat it as if it is a blech. A little bit not, a little bit yeah. So you can't bring a rai from here. In general, what a Oshia shita is in shittas Rabbanon. That's what the Gemara wants to say. And then, according to Rashi, the Hemshech of the Gemara is all fleshing out the original conversation. So what's the chiddush? I would say because it's red hot, so it came back to miltza kamaisa as if it's not a blech. Kamash one is halfway yeah blech and halfway not a blech. Same words kimat kotma b'uvene. Mashal lachem mishochem akal tzorkim. Betavshe shabishal kal tzorkim. He adds 4 words. I feel like a cholam shal roisim. Oh, again, so the Bnei Yeshiva said, which again, according to Rashi, what's going on over here? Shmami know that this is not a blech. And there's a kula and there's a chumrah. There's a chumrah, you can't put any food in it until it's in bashal kol tzorka. And there's a kula that wants in bashal kol tzorka, even its stomach b'yafel is mutter. The Gemara shlogs up shani achad the cotton. Because it was kotma, it's like we treat way halfway yeah blach, halfway not a blach. Yochim ayla mevis the Gemara bezeh what's the chiddush? Huvra yitzarchalei. That even though it's huvra and it's red hot, it's as if halfway it is a blach. Oh, hainach the gecholim. So that's the rest. Why? What's the chiddush of Rebbe Yochanan over Rebbe Oshia? Hainohach. So the Gemara emphasis gecholim sharoisim yitzarchalei, even though gecholim sharoisim a special gecholim all the way from Houston, Texas. And these are the red hot, they know how to make barbecues. These are gecholim sharoisim a moedik. Still, because he put sand in it, halfway we considered it as if it's kotma. But you can't bring a raya from Rebbe Yochanan and Rebbe Oshia. What a shit is chacham. In other words, the Gemara thought Shema Mina from Rebbe Yochanan and Rebbe Oshia a kula in the words of Rabbanon. Even though they hold you need to have a blech, but as long as it's fully cooked, you don't need a blech anymore. And it's mistamach v'yafel, I don't care. Still mutter. No, maybe that's a yoitzim rakla because 40 put sand, and because he put sand, we halfway treat it as if it's a blech. That's the Tosfos first pshat. We need an hour to go through this. Tosfos the first pshat is very shver pshat. But the bottom line, the first pshat holds that when the Gemara says shani hocha the kotma, that it is a blech, and it is a blech. Oh, if it's a blech, then you should be able to put even raw food on it. Yeah, you could put raw food on it. But Avoshia said, Tafsha Shabishal Kol Tzorkim. Lav Dafka. Wouldn't the Rebbe say what he thinks and thinks what he said? It's like funny. It's a mamish mahapad. It's a Tosfos is working overtime. That's why it's a long Tosfos. But the only Tosfos is gonna, the Tosfos himself acknowledged the first pshat is Ashved pshat. That Rebbe Yoshe said something, but he meant the opposite of what he said. The Tosfos says a yesh. Let's learn from the end of Tosfos. V'oid yesh loimer. The last 10 lines in Tosfos. V'oid yesh loimer. Shani hocha the kotma. Like 10 lines before the bottom. See? First word in the line is yesh loimer.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oid yesh loimer. Tosfos realizes first pshat alul hadoidik. V'oid yesh loimer. Shani hocha the kotma. It's halfway the ketima helps. Mishum the bishul kotzarka. Bishul kotzarka also. Mishum the huvere. V'hashtas is shaper. Had er nokat hoche kotma v'huvere. Ule il in the words of Reb Chia nokat v'ni slapsa. V'ni slapsa have a pochas mahuvere. V'have legamri kiktuma. That the Tosfos is medayik. Chia said kotma v'ni slapsa. Bersha said kotma v'huvere. Rashi in Life of Pshat, it's he'll use a little different word than a Besha. Please don't make a big deal out of it. And
Two different.
yeah, and don't make a big deal. So, but Rashi, and according to Rashi, there's the fourth machlokes between Rebbe and Rebbe Chia holds that if it becomes red hot again, it's considered still a blech. Rebbe holds it's not really; it's a halfway blech. According to Tosfos, there was never machlokes, which is like a shmak pshat. First is the slaps that came out white, but it didn't mamish become red hot. And the Moshe was talking when it was red hot. So if it came just a little bit white, it's as if the blech is still there. Come red hot, then it's halfway, and it has to be at least this mashal called tzorka, which is not a bad pshat. The slaps have a pochus mover. Rabbi Gamri kiktum. Vorig now the Gemara asks, Yocher Maila Meimer. V'lo miltzes for have a minute longer than miltz kamais. Come over the slaps so short. If Rebbe didn't say a word, I wouldn't know that there's any difference. And I would pass like Reb Chia, that it's still considered a blech. I feel a loy bishal kotzorka. Ubeloshen isur havale lashmina. V'loy beloshen hete. Meshayna huvrit tzachir. No, it is a chiddush. V'lav miltza lo have a posher hete. It's not so true. I would have thought potter in it. He'll have a saldaitach lamena, the hodech miltza kamaisen. And if we said a beloshen hete, okay. But at least the Tosfos the Hemshech Gemara goes well. Let's be masakim. One thing in Rashi is that there is a concept that a blech works because a person is goli daitik. Tosfos doesn't have that. Tosfos is seheist ablech, says nicht ablech. Tosfos sounds like Rashi sounds a little more. But if I was megala das, like maybe that the blech doesn't have to cover that. Yeah. Shinga Tosfos sounds like it's not. It's ablech senishkim. I'm not sure. But anyway, in the Hemshech Gemara, Rashi holds that the Gemara was thinking that I have now in Shittas Rabbanan a chiddush that as long as it's fully cooked, I don't need a blech. No, so this is considered as if it's a half blech. And Rebbe is arguing in Reb Chia. Tosfos says no. Rebbe and Chia don't argue. He was talking about it was only got a little white, so it's considered a blech. He called it became red hot, and that's why it's a half a blech. This is a shvere Tosfos, a shvere sugya. I'm glad we got to this point. In Mitzvah Hashem, I want Wednesday we should finish at least this chaylik of the sugya. So then we could get in the Mitzvah Hashem to summation of Gimel. We talk about Mitztamak v'Yofalo. We have to be messiah with the famous story. There's a Gizor, the Ruzhin Atzadik. Ruzhin Atzadik at Gizor. It's a given a Yid. Sehr pusht Yid. Am Rosh Hashanah. The Shul, the Gold is verstanden. And he saw Yidna crying. You know the story? Yidna crying. Fellows waiting. Probably everyone's hungry. It's a spät. And they're hungry. So the five waiting. It's a Kirschäufer. Jeden weinen, because man tut schon, wer versteht nicht. Der Fall weinen. Später mit Dama muss er, so viel Leute keine Gun. So wasn't the moment Levitic is confused? He said, no. The people realized that when the cholm, the tzimmers, it's stuff in fire, is the more it's on the fire, it's mit stomach v'yofalo. It's a very mehr Geschmack at tzimmers. So even though I'm hungry, before the tzimmers wird a mehr Geschmack at tzimmers. So it's good. Then you come in a sana toikiv. Alle man geben weine nachemon. Why are they crying now? No. It said, Take, the Zimmers, wird a mehr Geschmack at Zimmers. When there's a hungry. I can't stay out. Sorry, so can't stand it anymore. Someone's crying. And the Ruzhina laughed and laughed and laughed. And he said, with the Nim Shalais, at first, ignoring all this, they cried. Tension just not so victim. Then there were tzaddikim that came along and said, there's a big nachas ruach to the Eibishter, and the loss of love will be more geschmack. The more we're going to suffer, the most goal is the more geschmack is going to be the loss of love and the mitzvah Mashiach. The tension is doing half and the Shalom, I don't care. So better not best it in us. I get tension. The tension is doing half. We want to be v'niglik v'oid Hashem. We don't want. Forget about it. Even though it's a better tzimmus, we don't want it. We don't want any more better tzimmus. We will. And Mashiach tzakei is Hashem come. Yeah. Little kids.
The sun's coming.
You didn't know the story? So I'm very glad I told the story. Why did they call me? Whatever you think about the chol, the kochzach, I think about the illusion of tzaddik. Yeah, that's it. Huh? I think so. I think you'll have an idol now. Just say a time and everyone will be here.
4 o'clock.
Make it as late as you could.
4.
Yeah, make it 4 o'clock.
I don't think
He is 4:37.
You'll have an idol.
make whoever commits.
Reishimo.